Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Creating Hanley. I am the Hanley at Creating Hanley, and we are in a new month for our So a Year Full of Stars star block of the month. This month's star block is called Crazy Star, and I actually got the idea from the Fabric Patch. I did this star 1 or 2 years ago on my own for like around Christmas time. No, I did it for 4th of July, but I didn't do it on film, so we're going to do it on film today. So in June in the United States, we have a day called Flag Day. We just had a day called Memorial Day in May, and in July we have a day called Independence Day. So all these days, are around the U.S. military and just showing our United States pride. And so this theme that I'm doing is red, white, and blue, stars and stripes. So you can do whatever theme you want. That's the theme that I'm going with my fabric. And so I'm going to show you how I do this. And then we can get started right now. So this month's star is called Crazy Star. And you can use whatever type of fabric that you want. If you want to use just scrappy fabric, that's fantastic. It actually works well with that. If you want to use a theme, and my cat's trying to come into the room and have the door closed. Sorry for that crash you heard. Okay, anyway, let's get to it. So I'm going to take you over to my table right here. So what I have done is, so this is a star. Yeah, you see a star. So and of course in the vein of Murphy's Law and technology, my printer is not talking to my laptop anymore, and I don't really know why, except that I did a cleaner on it, and I did the laptop cleanup, and now it doesn't talk to my, even with a cord, from a cord to the printer, to a cord to the computer, it still doesn't talk. It doesn't recognize. So I don't know what happened. So because of that, normally you can just print this template out. Just find a template online, just a free template online, and then just print that out on your printer. But because I couldn't do that, I just drew one. And I still use the template online. I just traced it on the screen. So be very careful if you do that you don't hurt your screen, your computer screen. Okay, especially if it's a laptop or something very delicate. But anyway, I digress. So this is a pencil drawing. And again, it's very simple, very primitive. So you just want to make your angles precise and your lines precise. So that's what I did. So anyway, this is just regular paper. Now if you have freezer paper, that will help you immensely in this project. I don't have freezer paper, so I'm just going to use regular copy paper. Okay, now what I did was I kind of roughly cut out the star from the regular paper, and then freezer paper, you do not need to do this, but regular paper, I just made little tape donuts, and the tape that I had was painter's tape around, so I just used that. But you can see, if I back this up, you can see where you can see through, right? You can see where I put the tape donuts. You can see those. So make sure that your tape donuts are inside the lines. So you want 5 on the outside on your star points or star legs, and then you want 1 in the center. You don't need any on the outside regular paper. So this star measures at 6.5 inches. You can do whatever size you want. I just chose 6.5 inches. Now remember, keeping in mind that we want to make 12.5 inch unfinished blocks. So I'm hoping that 4 of these will make a 12.5 unfinished block. I don't know yet. We're going to try this right now together. So I just kind of guessed. I didn't really do a whole lot of math at all. I just kind of guessed. So we're going to figure this out. But this star does shrink down a bit after we cut it and get it onto the, after we get it onto the fabric and sew it all together. So after we cut all this apart and then we sew it all together, it is going to shrink quite a bit. So we're going to see how that works. But anyway, let's take you down to my surface area here. So you do not need to do this many fabrics, but I did 8. I had 8 fabrics. So again, my theme is red, white, and blue. So I have one, this one, okay, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I made my squares 7 inches to accommodate the 6.5. But that 7 inches on the square to accommodate a 6.5-inch star might be cutting it short. I may actually lose some of my star points in my finished product. Because I did cut it pretty short, pretty close there. So if you're using a 6.5-inch star, you might want to use a 7.5-inch or even an 8-inch square. All right, so I cut each square 7 inches. So each square is 7 inches. Now I'm going to place my star on top of this, and be very careful that all of these edges are lined up pretty close. I mean, you may not be able to get it exactly perfectly, but get it as close as possible, especially if you are really short on extra space. So you want to make sure all your star points are inside the fabric edge. So make sure all of your star points are inside of the fabric edge. And then if you are using regular paper and you have the donuts, just place that on there and do not move it. If you are using the freezer paper, then you would take your iron and iron over that. Be careful not to burn the paper, but then you would iron that on. And then what that effectively does with the shiny side down. So if you're using freezer paper, put the shiny side down onto your fabric, lightly iron over it so that shiny side kind of melts onto your fabric. It will not leave a residue, so don't worry about that. and then leave it there. And then this is the next step. Okay, so we got that step so far, right? So the next step, let me take you down to the surface area again, is to cut this out. Now, I have this nifty twirly mat here. If you don't have one, that's okay. But what that just means is if you don't have a twirly mat like that, then that means that you're just going to have to keep the fabric in place so that it doesn't shift and get distorted. So wherever it is, you want to be able to make sure that you walk around. You're going to have to move, not the fabric. Otherwise, if you have one of these cool little things here, you can turn this around without actually lifting the fabric up. So let me show you what I mean. So we're going to get to cutting this. Make sure you have a sharp blade in your rotary cutter because that will come in handy. If you have a 60 millimeter, 60 millimeter, this is a 45. That might be a little bit easier to make these cuts, especially if you have a lot of fabric. Now, if you're only using 2 pieces of fabric, not a big deal. You don't have to use 8. You can use as many as you want. In my head, I'm thinking 4 blocks per 12-inch, but that may not work. I'm not sure. It's going to be an experiment. So that's why I came up with 8. I actually had, this is what was in my stash already. I did not go out and purchase anything. So I had 8 of these red, white, and blue star themed, stars and stripes themed fabric. So I already had 8. That's a great number because we're going to pair 2's together. So we pair 2's together. So that we're going to end up with 8 stars. So if you only want 2 stars, you can't have 1. You're going to have 2. So if you want only 2 stars, use only 2 pieces of fabric, especially if you're experimenting. If you are doing this for Christmas, for example, then you can use, different colored fabrics and and experiment with those as well. So you can do more. You can only do 2. That's the minimum, but you could do 12. You could do whatever even number. 2 divides into whatever. So you could do 16. Whatever works for you. But regardless, you want to make sure that your points are inside the fabric edges. Usually a 1/2 inch is good. Anything less than a 1/4 inch is not gonna work. Even if you have a 1/4 inch, you may lose some star points. So just keep that in mind. If you're really short, if you're cutting it short with the fabric, say like you're using scraps, and you're like, oh, I have a 7 inch and I'm using a 6.5 inch star, then we're gonna see how that goes, right? So give yourself a little extra room if you can. So sharp blade. The bigger the better. Don't have to buy a bigger one if you don't have it. This blade, we'll see how sharp this is. Cutting through, so you're going to cut through, if you're using freezer paper, you're going to cut through the freezer paper, which is thicker than this regular paper, but it's still pretty thick. And then however many layers of fabric that you have. So it's going to be a lot. So make sure you take good care of your equipment. And what you want to do is line up your star point and your star point, and that straight edge right here, that should be a completely straight edge. I don't know if I can get this any closer for you guys. Maybe that helps a little bit more. So point to point, straight edge, and then make sure you keep this down pretty tight. If you need to add, a weight on there, go ahead and do that. And then just start off of the fabric and then just start cutting all the way through. Yeah. There you go. Be very careful you don't cut your fingers, you don't slide off. I have to do this in a couple passes because this is so thick and my blade probably is not the sharpest. Now I'm just going to pull this away a little bit, and you can see that did separate. That cut right through there. Okay. So I'm just going to pull this away just a little bit. And now I'm going to turn. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm going to leave this in place. Sorry, guys. I'm going to leave this in place. Nope, I'm going to take that back again. So, okay, so I cut off the star point, and now you have this left, right? If you remove that star, now you have kind of this shape right here. So I'm going to cut this part out as well. And again, line up star point to star point, straight line, and then just start off of the fabric and go straight across. Try not to have the fabric distort. That is why a really sharp blade helps. Okay, so now I'm going to pull that apart. Now I have this shape right here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this part off. So I want to be very careful I don't cut on this. I'm just going to cut this part off. So you see how this is the center of the star? Line up those lines. Oops. Okay, now so you see how this looks already, right? Now what I want to do is leave this. This is perfect. Now I want to cut out the star point here. So again, line up this point, this edge point to this point, and then just cut straight off. We're not fussy cutting anything out. We're just cutting it straight. And this is actually scrap. I can throw that away. Okay, now cut out this part. So we're cutting out the little star point, right? No, we're not. Do I want to do that? Yeah. Well, if I just screwed up, I screwed up on camera. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Now this part is trash too. So this is our star point. And then same thing here, our star leg. Line up those lines and cut straight off. So this 6.5 inch star is going to shrink down quite a bit, like I said before. That's why I think it would work in a 12.5 inch unfinished block, but we're going to find out. Okay, so see how this is looking so far, guys? And now I want to cut out this top star leg as well. So same thing, just line up your ruler. I just want to make sure all the fabric is in place. And then this piece can go in the trash. We don't need that. And then this star leg here. Okay. And then this is trash. So now we have our star kind of exploded. Now if we put it back together, it should easily look like a star. Okay, there we go. Now our star looks like a star. Okay, so we've just taken this apart. Now what do we do? Now what do we do? Now we take the star pieces. And so if you have freezer paper, oh hi kitty. If you have freezer paper, it will be sticking to the fabric right directly underneath it, right? So, and if you have the sticky donut, same thing. So you're going to just take that top one piece of fabric and then put it on the bottom. Make sure they're all lined up. Same for all of the star pieces only. This is what makes it the crazy part. So only just the star pieces. Put that right on the bottom. Keep them all in the same order. So this top piece now goes to the bottom. And that exposes the next fabric underneath. There we go. So again, if we put this all back together, you can see how it easily formed that star once again. Oh, here's a kitty cat. Hello. People can't see, Sabrina. All right. Right there. Okay. See how that works? And then, so now we take this to the sewing machine. Sorry about the cat interruption. Hey, baby. So we take this to the sewing machine. And the hard part is figuring out which order to do this. This is going on 20 minutes video so far. All right, so I think I'm going to stop right here. So just get to this point. Oh my gosh, I can't. Anyway, here we go. Just get to this point, and then in the next video, I will help you figure out how to sew all this in order. Okay. All right, that's it for this part 1. So grab your fabric, figure out whatever you want to do, and then you can see how we take the top layer underneath. So just the star, we take the star underneath. So figure out what you want to work with, and then which star size you want, which size block you want, and then cut out your blocks to that size, cut your star, do everything that we just did, the template and all that. All right, and we'll be back in the next video. Okay, bye for now. See you soon.